great. Okay, so my name's Becca, and this year I was 20 years qualified as a neurophysio, and that just feels absolutely bonkers, but here we are. I spent a lot of my career working in the NHS, so I led the neuro outpatient service at St Thomas's in London for about 12 years, and we as a family we left London 2022 2023 to try and have a bit more balance as a mum. And so when we left, we moved to the north of England, we moved to Chester, and I set up a teeny tiny little business called Upton Neurophysio. And as that was growing and evolving, I was able to take on something which had been really sitting in my mind for a very long time. That's the supporting women who have got neuro conditions during their pregnancy. And I guess when I first kind of thought about this was when I was pregnant with my firstborn, who's now going to be 10 next month.
Oh. I've just had a 10 birthday as well, double digits.
It's mental, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And that was going to be my first question, what did lead you to create Neuro Natal as a support service, and also the Pilates? Like, what was your experience?
Yeah, so I guess when you're pregnant, you see the world through a different set of eyes, and I remember being on the tube and seeing every woman with a bump and just being like, I've got you. In my clinical world, I would see people with neuro conditions across the whole age, the whole age span. But there were women who I was asked to see during their pregnancy because things had started to get a bit more difficult. So they may have had some symptoms. They may have had difficulties with walking. They may have been in a wheelchair. They may have had difficulty using an arm. And there was then, with their change of roles in life, there was going to be discussions around how are they going to be able to cope with their limitations, their physical limitations, and their new roles as a parent. They were smashing life normally, but then you add in a new role. And so I was teaching people how to change a nappy with one hand, looking at supporting people in terms of balance and making sure that what generally happens, and what I was seeing, is that people were with neuro conditions and symptoms plus or minus disability were going through life doing what they needed to, but then when pregnant, with the extra things that you're navigating, so feeling really nauseous, feeling really tired, all of the kind of pregnancy related things that just happen when you're growing a baby, that then made people take to their chairs more, and just because they were struggling, they were less active. But because of that reduced activity, then their symptoms were more problematic. And so it wasn't that their condition was changing, it was that they were becoming less active. And I didn't see out there services that could support them to maintain their activity levels. And I would see, like, particularly whilst I was pregnant myself, and as a physio, we're a funny breed. We love activity, and I was really active, and I was able to continue doing a lot of what I needed to. But I saw women who had significant symptoms finding things more and more difficult, and there's an easy solution for that, to be more active. And so that was the brainchild. There are so many pregnancy exercise and activity classes and one services out there which are incredible, but these ladies, that they found that they didn't want to go to a class and be the odd one out, the one who
so can you go into a bit of some of the barriers that people might come across that's really common, because I imagine it's quite isolating. So for someone who might be watching this and thinking, oh, is it just me that feels like that, or what are the common barriers?
So if people struggle to get on and off the floor by themselves, because in a lot of classes there's movements getting on and off the floor and doing things in different positions, which people might be able to do, but it takes a good bit of time, and so people don't want to be stopping and not able to do it with the rest of the group. things like that. If somebody has got quite significant balance problems already, and sometimes some people use something called an orthotic, which can kind of help to lift your toes if your foot's dragging a bit. And then that in an exercise class might be a bit harder to navigate. Again, if you've got like an arm or hand weakness, which means that you can't hold on to elastics or you can't hold on to weights in the same way, or sometimes energy levels. And I know with pregnancy, like for a lot of people, fatigue is a big thing. Sometimes if people have got pre-existing fatigue associated with a neuro condition, that people can think like an exercise class is normally like 45 minutes to an hour. I think that's just I'm not going to be able to do that all in one go. Sometimes cognitive fog as well. There are some cognitive difficulties or maybe even communication difficulties that act as a barrier. So there's a wide range of different things that people may be struggling with and not feeling that they would naturally fit into a group where they would want to go to, but just and you know what, sometimes the instructors would be able to support them as well. It's just people, what I found, they don't want to feel like the odd one out, and so they want to find something where there's more people like them who are having similar difficulties that they can kind of just blend in with a little bit more.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And often your midwife will tell you, won't they? And it's a good thing they are telling people to kind of keep active, and the fact that yoga, Pilates and things are such great things to do. But you're right, the barrier, I suppose, like you've explained really well, is that you're just going to need different things within that class. So actually,
some people need different things, and and to have that opportunity. So if, for example, people, they have like a limb weakness, like find it difficulty to stand up from a chair, then you'll make sure that the classes are loaded to have lots of those exercises in, so that as well as building strength for a pregnant body, we're also preparing for when baby arrives. Practice of we use a doll a lot.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, just with the doll and with some weights, and just practice things like putting the baby down onto a changing mat, and deep squats down towards the floor as much as we can do, to be able to get down to the floors and when we need to. And sometimes with some balance difficulties, particularly if sensation's not great. When in those early days when you've had a baby and you're going at very dark, very early hours of the morning.
Yes.
You don't want to turn lights on because you don't want to wake up baby anymore. You're just trying to keep everything very nice and calm and dark. If you've got a sensory difficulty, then moving around in the dark can be really difficult, and standing in the dark, that can impact on your balance. So again, we're practicing things like that in advance, so that the needs we can see the needs for now, but also any needs when baby's here, we're practicing things so that can become feel really confident with it, and their balance skills are all at the top of their game. So when baby arrives, they know what they're doing. They've practiced it ahead. So
I thought ahead, and that's such practical information as well as the movement side of it. That's really cool. And so in terms of are there many elements that are similar to kind of a traditional Pilates or yoga class? I keep saying yoga as well because Pilates you focus on, don't you?
It's quite a combined approach. So we start the classes with the whole Pilates philosophy. So thinking about symmetrical movement, smooth, controlled movement, engaging the core, lots of focus on the pelvic floor as well, very mindful movement, so that it is, so we're engaging and using the classic Pilates moves in the right setting. So for example, some things like, some of the exercises like hundreds, that are things which is classic Pilates moves that people will know from outside of this environment. But maybe if people are struggling to get on and off the floor to do it that way, then we'll do it in sitting or in standing. So and using those exercises and using that as a starting point, and then building from those classic Pilates moves into the more functional tasks. So maybe doing some trunk twists, to then doing that with a weight, to then doing that with a baby, to then reaching for a bottle of water. So it just can't, they build on each other to so Pilates is the starting point, and the whole kind of philosophy about the smooth controlled movement and how we're engaging our body is pivotal to everything. But we expand from the classic Pilates moves and then build them into more functional based things, which to build that functional strength too. If that makes sense. Sorry, is that too
It
much?
makes total sense. Yeah, I guess where I was coming from was, what would someone expect from,
Yeah.
going into the class? And you teach these online as well, don't you? So it doesn't have to be kind of in person. But remind me where you are in the world.
Yeah, so I'm in Chester, so I live over the road from Chester Zoo. So so I hear the animals as my wake up call in the morning. It is a virtual class, and that's for a reason, because people, their energy levels can be a bit lower. I want to make sure that it is something that's accessible, so they're not having to use what limited energy resources they've got available to them to travel. They can, and they can do it. And I guess in terms of what to expect, we start with like a very familiar starting point with getting and engaging with our body. We do some breathing exercises and pelvic floor. We progress into Pilates exercises, then into the function based exercises. Then at the end, we have some mindfulness, because it's mind, body, and soul. And then at the end, we have a shared lunch. So lunch club, so that people can start to create links and become each other's support network, because that for me is as important as the exercise element. And they're recorded, so anybody who comes to the class will have a recording, or if they miss a class and they've paid for a block, they'll have access to that recording, and then they can watch that time again and do that as many times as they want to through the week. So from an energy level perspective, if they've only got a limited amount and can do like 20 minutes, that's fine. They can do the rest of the class later on. So it's
Gosh, that's incredible. That's such an amazing offering. Like the lunch club as well. I'm obviously such a huge advocate of
well, that's it.
Community, and
I think that's how we chatting together. That was kind of, I think, where we really kind of bonded, that because that is so important. It's not, activity is so important. We know the benefits of that, but the mindfulness part too, and then also creating community is everything, because this group of women are often quite isolated, and more isolated than they need to be, because sometimes because they don't feel like they can go to some of these things where they would meet other people. So finding more people who they can share their tips about how they manage and navigate things, like managing things with one arm working, like there's specific niche things there that
very much so,
that not everybody in your little support network will be able to help you with. So I'm hoping that this is going to allow that.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find, in terms of do you have first, second time parents? What does it, is there always a mix, or do you have a particular focus?
Everybody is welcome. So far, the people who've come in, I mean, I only literally launched this like in March, so it's so tiny.
But honestly, like, it's absolutely needed. I've never come across anything like it. So well done.
Well, I've literally poured my heart and soul into it, and I hope it will become something. It's, with all honesty, it's tiny numbers at the moment, but the people who have come through it have found it so valuable. They have been first-time parents, but they've all said that when number 2 comes along, they'll come back again. So that's a nice kind of
absolutely
reassurance that it's doing the right kind of thing.
I guess it was to reassure anyone watching who's looking into it, that like you say, everyone's welcome.
And everybody's welcome. And at the moment, there's only one class a week, but what I hope for is that as this grows, hopefully, and expands, it will be something where we are kind of grouping people by different symptoms. So people, so that the exercises are very much targeted towards the needs of that individual group. And as it has stood so far, it has kind of worked like that, but there are different symptoms that people might be dealing with, and I want to make, that's my vision, that it could expand to being people who've got more arm difficulties might go into one group, or people who, if they need to have a chair-based exercise program for most of it, then they will stick together, so that again their difficulties will be shared, and so they will be able to support each other with kind of when you're dealing with things as a new mum, like how to kind of navigate challenges, because often I'm pulling together things that people are telling me along the way, and have come across some really amazing kit out there which I can share, but it's often people themselves who find the really great ways, their own hacks to push things. But then unless that people that can be shared along the pathway as well. So,
it's amazing. And we talked about a lot about the kind of physical benefits and things, and I guess it's obvious it's going to help mental health, but can you elaborate a bit more on the mental health side of, you know, joining these classes or getting your support? I know you have a few different ways you can support people too.
So because I'm a physio, and because like I'm also a clinical researcher by background as well, and as I've launched this, I've wanted to make sure that I am evaluating it as we go along as to what the benefits are of this, and I wanted to make sure in particular that I was evaluating that too, because for people with some of the neurological conditions, there's actually evidence out there, there's research that's been done out there to say that from a mental health perspective during pregnancy, these women are struggling more with their mental health than people who don't have any long-term conditions, but other neuro conditions too. And a lot of the time that's around unpredictability and being fearful of not being able to cope, and lots of different things which come in, which everybody, so many, you know, I think I personally was, when I was pregnant, was thinking, how am I gonna be able to cope with this, you know? But then that seems to be ramped up a notch if you've
There's
got
another layer.
you've got an extra layer to it. So sorry, that's a really long-winded way of saying
No,
I'm
not at all.
doing an outcome measure called Wellbeing in Pregnancy Outcome Measure, which evaluates both the physical and the psychological impact. And what I'm seeing from the teeny numbers of people who've come through is that during their pregnancy, their wellbeing scores are actually going higher, as opposed to what may be static or maybe going low. So it's really positive.
Yeah, it's really positive.
So it is very much part of it, and that's as well why the community and also the mindfulness, I really wanted that to be part of it too, so that people could start to utilize mindfulness. But you know what, of the people who've come along to my classes, they were already practicing mindfulness anyway. So which when I was pregnant a decade ago, I wasn't pregnant, so I think that's a really positive thing. That's part of people's lives, but then when we're doing it, it doesn't feel like something new and different. It feels like it's another part of the picture, which I love. I think is brilliant.
Yeah, and equally, I guess if someone hasn't done any mindfulness or anything, it's very easy to kind of pick it up, isn't it, and use it. And it's so valuable in postnatal, I think, when things are,
And I
you know,
think
quite
also,
out of your control in lots of ways.
yeah, I found it really helpful. Like, I think like during pregnancy that, there's a lot of worry then as well. I personally found that I was quite
Yes.
at times, like particularly when I was going for appointments, it's always like, are they okay? There was
Yeah, I
so
think the moment you become pregnant, there is a worry there, isn't
yeah,
there? And
yeah,
so using a mindfulness to just help you rationalize sometimes, because sometimes it's a genuine worry, sometimes it's
yeah,
just because we're very caring mums.
yeah, it's your mum.
Yeah, the rationalizing things can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And have you, I mean, this is a bit of a left field question, sorry, so
That's
coming
all
out,
right.
but in terms of like partners and things like that, is there anything that you've kind of envisaged doing to support them, or if you're already doing it? But yeah, I just like to kind of
Yeah,
mention the
no,
partners in this too when I do.
yeah, I mean, I think that is something that is huge and
Mm.
really important. I haven't yet, but I think that I I think that as you say, is really important, and particularly in a pregnancy and you know, postnatal for somebody who may need more in the way of
Yeah.
family support than others. Yeah, I think that is very much on the agenda to build in. I haven't thought in terms of what that would be yet, but
Yeah.
it's I think the partner is often not considered in the same way when actually they're going through such a huge life change too. I know,
Yeah, and I mean, you're obviously so passionate about this area, and I know you'd do it all in an instant if you could.
yeah,
um,
but
but it was just, yeah, to think, oh, I wonder, um, how a partner could be brought into this at some
yeah.
point. Mhm.
Yeah, one of my friends, Sally Reffold, she's a spinal cord injury
Mm.
physio who does a lot supporting
Yeah.
both parents
Mm.
during all stages of life, but during the pregnancy to postnatal too. So for spinal cord injury, I know that there's a service that's already out there which is
Mhm.
supporting both. Um,
And like you mentioned, the family support network, educating them
yeah,
on, the things that they'll need to know.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's always so much to do, so I
Oh,
really
yeah.
commend
I
you
mean,
on
once you
that
start to
because
jump in,
it's not
oh
enough
yeah.
hours in the day. But what you're doing is incredible. So
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you so much for telling me all about it, and I really hope people through the hub find you.
Oh,
I'll put your contact details and everything on there, and I'll tag you on the post. So if someone wanted to reach out to you through the hub, is that okay?
that's perfect. Thanks so much, Emiliana. And yeah,
But
anyone can just get in touch. I'm very happy to chat. Always on email. So yeah.
yeah, and actually, the final thing is something that people always ask, obviously, about the price. I know you obviously just started this up, so I
Yeah,
should say can be subject to change. When you're
yeah.
learning about what's needed and adding to the offering and that kind of thing. But right now, how much is it for the block booking?
Yeah, so we're just doing block bookings of 3 classes at the moment. So it's
Mhm.
3 classes for 50,
Nice.
that's about £16 a class. But
Yeah,
then you have got access to that through the week as well. So
yeah, that's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you. So
oh, always a pleasure.
people, yeah, to understand, and I think it's completely invaluable.
Oh,
So
well,
um,
I do feel like we were a little bit pushing ahead of a curve. I'm not sure if we're quite in the wave because at the moment there's so much focus on supporting people um, to become more active in general, and
yeah,
this feels like it's you know but it's something I feel like just keep pushing, getting the message out
definitely.
there, and hopefully we'll get
Yeah,
to a place where it's
yeah.
yeah part of the mainstream, which is great.
Yes. Yeah, we are doing amazing things with it. So thank you again. And we'll pop this on the hub, and it also goes onto YouTube as well.
Oh, that's
So yeah, we'll keep in touch, and I'd love to, invite you back in a few months because obviously the cycle of pregnancy it goes on, and so we just like to keep it refreshed in people's minds as well.
oh, thanks so much, Emiliana. I really appreciate this.
Right. Have a lovely weekend.
You too. Bye,
Thanks for your
Lee.
time. Bye.
Bye.